April 21st and 22nd, 2016, marks a horrific night in the history of Ohio, where 8 members of the same family were viciously murdered. There were no clues left as to what happened, other than the dead bodies, and the 3 children, all under the age of 3, that were the only family members left alive. The horrors of the night left everyone questioning why this happened, and what took the investigators 6 years to figure out the crime scene. The Roden family consisted of 11 members in total, Kenneth Roden being the oldest, 44, also the brother to Christopher Roden, who was 40, and Dana Lynn's ex-husband. Their 3 kids, Christopher Roden Jr., Hannah Mae Roden, Clarence Frankie Roden, and his fiancée, Hannah Hazel, and Christopher's and Kenneth's cousin, Gary Roden, along with 3 kids, one of which were of Hannah Mae's, and the other 2 were of her brother, Frankie. They were all a tight-knit family who lived close to each other, but because of one's bad relationship choice, they all ended up giving their lives. The police received a tense phone call from Bobby Jo Manley, a slain victim's sister, who had gone there to feed the animals when she and her brother James later discovered the atrocities committed there. The police arrived at the scene shortly after the call, but before their arrival, Bobby and James had already searched all the houses, and there they made the grisly discoveries. They found the 40-year-old Christopher Roden Sr. and 38-year-old Gary Roden in the living room of the first house. They both laid there, shot dead. Christopher, who had been shot 9 times from a very close range, was the only one to show signs of defense. He had the most shots, 5 of which were to his head, 3 were to his torso, and 1 was to his arm, which he may have got as an attempt to push them back. On the other side lay Gary Roden, who was shot twice from a close range, both to the head, and a third came near enough to stamp his temple with its muzzle. In the next house, 2 bodies were discovered, one of Frankie, Chris's oldest son, and his fiancée, Hannah Hazel, who were both slain on their bed with their 4-month-old infant unhurt and their 3-year-old asleep on the floor. Frankie had 3 gunshot wounds to the head and face. Hannah Hazel had received 5 gunshot wounds, including 1 to the eye. Soon after, James fled in the direction of his sister Dana's home, who had also been slain along with her 2 children. Dana had received 5 head wounds, and her son Chris Jr. had 2 gunshot wounds to the top of his head. And in the final room, Hannah Roden was found dead along with her 4-day-old kid, who was attempting to nurse from her breasts. Hannah received 2 headshots. Because Hannah was recuperating from giving birth, her 2-year-old daughter Sophia was with her father at the time of the murder. Therefore, the little girl was spared. Donald Stone, a relative of Chris Roden Sr., and 2 friends drove to Kenneth Roden's house, which was down the street, where another family member who had not been answering any calls or messages was also found dead. This happened as the police in the neighborhood gathered to find out what had happened. He received 1 single bullet wound from a very near range coming to his eye. 8 dead corpses were found in all, but no further evidence was found. No gunshots were heard, no blood was visible. Even the family's pit bulls didn't bark that night, despite the fact that they were known to be aggressive towards those who were not family members. Furthermore, the fact that not a single mobile phone was discovered was the most perplexing aspect of all, since it was obvious that this would have provided strong proof against the murderers. Kenneth and Christopher Sr. both have a history of breaking the law. As a result of this, community suspicion soon spread that the family had ties to a Mexican drug gang, which was what ultimately caused their murders. Others claimed to be part of a large-scale narcotics enterprise run by the Cornbread Mafia. These reports were never confirmed by law enforcement. Numerous suggestions were contributed to the law enforcement agencies, and rewards were offered in an effort to find any proof linking the deaths. The police received numerous tips, but none led to any concrete proof. The belongings of the Roden family, including their cars and mobile homes, were kept as the search continued. The custody of the living children was left in the hands of the courts to decide, and Sophia was kept with her father and grandparents. But not long after, it became clear that Sophia would be the main path for the police to lead them to the murderers. After a thorough investigation, it was found that the murder was not the result of any organized crime, but rather a feud between the 2 families for Sophia's custody. Sophia was the daughter of Hannah Roden and Edward Jake Wagner, who was the son of Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner had a history with Chris Roden. They were both from a rough part of the community, and they had been both competitors and partners in crime. Billy even praised their friendship in an interview. The Wagner family even went so far as to take custody of Sophia soon after Hannah was killed. To achieve this, they presented Hannah with hand-signed paperwork prior to her death, stating that they would be granted complete custody of Sophia in the event that the mother passed away. The Wagners left the neighborhood and relocated to Alaska after a few months when things began to return to normal. They later returned to Ohio with Jake's new wife after a year. When the Wagner family returned, the men started driving trucks. They were seen as role models at work, which was completely out of character for them. Even after their parents' separation, the Wagner family remained close-knit. Both George and Jake's spouses felt as though they were being kept under extremely controlled influences when they were brought into the family because of how controlling the family was. The two ladies left shortly after returning from Alaska, but what they told the authorities and the family members was not made public. However, coincidentally, the investigation of the Rodens' murder was beginning to turn towards the Wagners. Soon the real story started to unwind and it all made sense in no time. All the murders were made to just get the full custody of Sophia. As explained by the Assistant Attorney General, Angela Canepa, who said how it all started as a love story and ended as the most horrific and tremendous murders. The couple broke up after Jake tried to choke Hannah, and from there the war over the custody of the child began. Hannah was kept under eye by Jake and his mother, who hacked into her social media accounts. Perhaps that one text that Hannah made to a friend about not giving her daughter to Jake triggered the family, causing them to start planning the whole murder. According to Jake, he didn't like the people that Hannah used to see, as he didn't want any bad influences on his daughter. Also, Hannah was seeing his sister-in-law's brother, from whom she got pregnant again and gave birth to her new child. This didn't sit well with the Wagner family, and they were given an opportunity to go forward with their plan. In addition to planning to kill Hannah, the family wanted to get rid of anyone who would have been able to claim custody of Hannah and Jake's child. To complete the documents, months of preparation and shopping were required. The planning was made thoughtfully. They bought wrong-sized shoes for the sons, purchased handguns and bullets, and they also bought manufactured suppressors to block the sound of the shooting bullets. The sons spent months honing their shooting techniques in their garden. Jake directed them to the location where they discovered the handmade suppressor that had burnt out. Moreover, they changed their appearances by dyeing their hair and also bought a cell phone jamming device. The Wagner sons even kept a close eye on the activity patterns of the family. They kept a close eye to when they went out, when they had people over, and when they were all home. It was not long after Hannah gave birth to her second child that the Wagners moved forward with their plan. During this time, Sophia was living with her father as Hannah recovered from the birth of her new child. It was then that the Wagners took action. They went into the Rodens' property at night and performed the murders. After the killings, they soon got rid of every piece of evidence that they could find and drove back. It was all part of their plan to perform the killings and then act just as surprised as everyone in the community. They disposed of their clothes and truck, and the weapons were removed in a very genius way. They had the upcoming birthday of one of their cousins who was a fisherman, so they dumped their weapons in metal cans, poured wet cement on them, and gave them as boat anchors to their cousin as his birthday gift. Everything was as planned for the family, but in no time the tables took a wild turn. Maybe the two women of the family gave information to the police, or someone else came with strong evidence, and it all came crashing down for the Wagners. They were kept under surveillance by the police, who installed hearing devices in their trucks. Soon after, they were arrested and brought in for trial. But then COVID-19 happened, and their trial was delayed by 2 years. After 2 years had passed, the trial began. Jake Wagner admitted to all 23 charges that had been made under his name. He even cut a plea deal with the state in exchange for the death penalty not being used against him or his family to tell everything. He explained how he was the one who pulled the trigger on 5 of the family members, and the other 3 were done by his father and brother. He also told how his mother was not involved in the killing as she was home, but she was part of all the cover-up and the forgery of the custody documents. Because of this, Jake will serve 8 concurrent life sentences with no chance of parole. Angela will serve a 30-year sentence for her role. As of this date, Jake's father and brother have not admitted to their guilt, so their trials are still ongoing.